I think the audio record, do you have to press it one more time? It's not running. Okay, now it's going.
Welcome to the Way of Biohacking podcast / YouTube channel. This is Dr. Tai.
Hi, I'm Linda, Nutritionist Yogini. What's up, what's up?
And?
Hi, everybody. It's Nikki, Nutrition and Wellness Intern.
All right, today is a transition podcast because Nikki is not here with us. He is at home, zooming in through the laptop. Thanks to his great setup that he has for us, he can continue to be at the podcast. And for everyone who knows our little situation, Nikki is going back to school. Although he won't be physically here with us, he'll be zooming in every Fridays with us through Zoom. And this way, he will be
keep this going.
Keep this going. Yeah. All right. Today's topic is New Year's resolutions / goals and the cycle of things. Linda, let's have you start off today's topic.
Yeah, so when we were discussing what to talk about today, we brought up our colleague Tom, the neuroarchitect, and how he just posted a video recently on how we are not making New Year's resolutions because resolutions mean that there's something wrong with yourself that you have to change. So as opposed to creating resolutions, we are going to create change and create the change that we want to see in our lives by setting the right intentions.
Nikki, what about you? How do you feel about setting intentions and stuff like that?
Well, I think having goals is super important, but I set goals more for like long-term things. Like I have certain goals that I would love to achieve by when I'm like 30. When I'm 30, I would like to have this, and that. And right now for the short term, I just kind of look for progress. Yeah. Like I look back at last year, like how did I progress last year in my health, my fitness, my education. In what ways did I progress from last year to this year? And then I hope to see that same increase in progression into next year.
Okay. Like me, like majority of my patients, I let myself go since Thanksgiving. I haven't been intermittent fasting, I'll be honest. I've been eating 2 meals, if not 2.5 meals. People brought in cookies, snacks, and all of these wonderful things, and I indulged like crazy. And I think before Thanksgiving I was weighing 170 pounds. When I checked this morning with clothes on, I was close to 175. So I am kind of ready to let this year go and start in January and go back to my normal things and get back to my normal weight to 175. Back to 170 and break that 170 barrier and get towards more health and fitness.
And I think that's kind of the issue with setting New Year's resolutions because people are just like, okay, well, I have until the end of the year and, I'm just going to make this switch right away. And the problem with doing that is you're not necessarily setting yourself up for success because it's so easy to fall back into routines and habits and really trying to set goals where you could make sustainable long-term changes.
I think that's a really good point. It's kind of like making a really drastic change really fast. It's hard to maintain. So I think instead of like say your resolution is to go to the gym, 5 days a week. That's from not going at all. That's a big jump. I think it's better, I'll try to go once or twice a week, and then keep going up it, increase the frequency, or not only the gym, but for any goal, increase how serious you take it over time instead of just kind of dive right into it. It's way easier to maintain that way. And if it's for a diet or something along those lines, say intermittent fasting, you could start by I'm just going to skip lunch, I'm going to skip dinner or breakfast twice a week. And then as you progress, you could increase how often you do it. It becomes way easier to keep up with it.
For myself, instead of setting goals, I'm changing routines, my Monday through Friday schedule. I figured out a routine when I'm in the office while I'm working. I don't eat anything other than coffee or water or tea up until noon. And then at 2 o'clock, I start eating fruits, vegetables, some sort of starch like air fried potatoes. That's a thing that I do now. And I eat my canned sardines for their high omega-3 content. And I drink a cup of coffee. And then I eat something when I get home. But that's my routine through Monday through Thursday. Fridays, I hang out with Linda, you and other people, and we do this like lamb noodle soup and Great Neck, right, that we just did today. So that's like a normal routine that I go through. However, this year, my routine has changed because I started doing aerial yoga after the summer. And then Friday mornings, we do yoga that Linda teaches us. And this upcoming year, one thing is going to be added is that I'm going back to Kendo Monday nights with my buddy Greg. So I think if I keep back to my routine, that added Kendo on Monday nights is going to push my weight below 170, I believe, within a month and a half time. And instead of saying like wishful thinking, I'm gonna try to lose 10 pounds, but you have no like routine or set up goal to do that, I think it's important to set these cycles, right?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily like to set weight goals when I do nutrition consultations.
Yeah.
I like to tell people to focus more on abundance, on how to include more fruits and vegetables in the diet, how to include adequate hydration, how to build muscle. That's a really big part of what I teach whenever I am giving consultations. So people are so focused on, I want to lose weight. But you have to realize when you lose weight, you lose both muscle and fat. You're not just losing fat. So even if you are having intention to lose weight, you just have to make sure that you are maintaining your muscle mass. You are choosing the appropriate foods to help maintain that muscle mass. And you're choosing activities to help you gain lean muscle mass, which will help improve your metabolism, which will aid you on your weight loss journey.
I also agree with that. I've talked about this before. I used to weigh 115 pounds when I was at my lowest a few years ago, and I used to set like numbers to try to reach, and I realized like I wasn't reaching those numbers as fast as I would like to. And I would step on the scale, and I'll see I'm too low still, I'm too low, and I get really frustrated. And then I found a lot more peace of mind when I just stopped getting on the scale, and I just saw how I looked and like how I was improving with my physique. And it was a lot less frustrating when I just got off the scale and just focused on how I was performing at the gym and how I thought I looked.
What do you think about like people who are like, for example, for me, like I was eating carbs, like sausage, egg, and cheese for breakfast was not when I was not on my intermittent fasting earlier this year because I was still coming out of COVID. And as I got back into my office, started treating patients, I had coworkers that would eat breakfast and drink coffee, and I was just like, indulging myself in it. But eventually, I got myself, out of that situation and started doing that. So for people who are eating a lot of carbs, like, do you tell them not eat carbs, but then start eating things like how do I approach my patients? Like, what is your recommendation, Linda?
So it really depends where you're at in your activity level. So if you are eating carbs multiple times a day and you're choosing a lot of refined carbs are usually processed, and they come in forms of like bagels, white bread, pastas, versus brown rice, quinoa. Those are unprocessed and whole grains. They have different nutritional content. Whole grains tend to also contain higher fiber content, which is great for digestion and help with satiety. So trying to switch the carbs to more higher nutritional value carbs, I like to think of it. So making a simple switch and watching your portions. So typically I recommend for carbs during a meal about the size of your fist.
Okay, that's a very good
recommendation.
recommendation.
If you're trying to cut carbs, then maybe half the size of your fist per meal or snack. So that could be the fruit that you're eating, or that could be like the bowl of rice or the amount of pasta that you're eating. And that's what I like to look at when I'm looking at carbs. But of course, the quality is very important. So again, choosing either, like if you're choosing a potato, trying to choose a potato with the skin on, and that a lot of the vitamins are in the skin. Or if you're choosing fruit, again, same thing, trying to choose fruit with high fiber content.
Also, to make the carbs so less insulin reactive. They don't spike your insulin so much. Eat them with fat and protein. Just the carbs on their own will cause a pretty big insulin spike, but you could negate it a good amount if you have it with a full meal.
All right. Okay, so we got the basics down. It's the end of the year. We're thinking about next year. We're setting goals. Some people New Year's resolutions, but we don't have problems, right? According to the neuroarchitect. Okay. Come February, right? There's Valentine's Day. People go on dates and they, indulge again, right? Like, how do you maintain your goals for people? Because some people fall off the bandwagon because New Year's resolution is just like January mindset, right? How do we overcome that?
So I'm not a big New Year's resolution setter, but I set intentions based on the moon cycle.
Okay.
So every new moon, I sit down, I reflect what intentions that I'm trying to set for this new moon cycle. And then full moon, every full moon, what am I trying to release during this moon cycle?
Okay.
So new moons are a good time for setting intentions. Coincidentally, January 2nd is the next new moon.
Okay.
So it works well with if you're trying to set resolutions. It's a good time to do it. It's a good time to set new intentions with the new moon cycle. So this is one way that you could work with nature and something that you keep returning back to. Because if you're setting these resolutions and you forget about them and then you try setting them again the year after, and it's very hard to reach what you're trying to attain or to achieve. So having something to keep you on track, I like to use the moon. Really having some kind of something to keep you, keep you accountable.
Okay, accountability, right. Okay. Nikki?
Well, I mentioned earlier, I set more long-term goals.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to set goals that are attainable and they aren't too far of a reach, and the ones that you can keep on track with. I think that's the key to maintaining that goal into February and so on. And I think a lot of people every year, I want to lose weight, I want to get bigger. A lot of people pick health resolutions, and health resolutions are hard. They're difficult. When I started my journey with this stuff, it was really hard to be focused and to be really kind of hard on myself. But it's worth it in the end, in my opinion. So I would say to keep at it, don't give up.
And my teacher teaches reality alchemy or manifestation, however you want to approach it.
Okay.
How do you bring things into your physical reality? And one of the most important points is surrounding yourself with people that are happy and surrounding yourself with positive people, because those people naturally do things that bring happiness into their lives or set goals and are able to reach them because they have a positive outlook. So the people you surround yourself with and the communities that you're a part of is a really important part of helping you achieve any goals you're trying to set.
I think Friday surrounding myself with Linda and Nikki definitely set me straight. It definitely did, because a lot of things happened, and that's a huge reflection of this year. Like, I think Nikki and I talked about it in the past in one of the episodes about me not giving up on the podcast, and somehow he magically appeared and he manifested it and put it all together, right? And I think that was
magically
really cool. Magically.
With magic. I put it together with magic.
Yeah. And now I'm trying to upkeep this Friday culture, and thanks to Nikki once again putting this all together so that we can continue to do this journey while he's in school. And now I want to make sure that this continues to grow. I think that's my plan for next year. My original goal was to get this message out there, and which brings us to the next thing, right? We have a lot of things planned, right? And I want to talk about that. One, the obvious is Nikki is going to be zoomed in for all the podcasts, right? Linda and I have this whole thing, the herbal shop, right? For Qi Body and Spirit, right? And I want to spend a little bit of time on explaining this because it's just beginning to sprout, right?
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the 5 phases cycle in the in Eastern medicine or Eastern medical theory or feng shui theory as well, because they share that as a common denominator, is that all things starts with water, right? And water makes the wood grow, and wood feeds fire, transforming into the next stage, and things rise up and reaches its peak. And once it reaches the peak, the ashes that flew up eventually falls to the ground, slowly but surely. And that little ash adds weight and density, which transforms into crystals. And if you look at a small crystal like an ash, it's hard to notice that. But if you see a crystal, a giant crystal is a mountain. And in the mountain, at the top of the mountain, it's water. And at the bottom of the mountain, it's the heavier elements like metal. So, and that repeats the whole cycle all over again. And we have a annual cycle, right, of January, February, March, and then the next cycle and the next cycle at the end of the year, where my cycle is I eat chocolates and whatever at the office, and I gain 5 pounds, and beginning of the year so there's this whole cycle. And then you're talking about this monthly cycle, right, about the new moon. How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing it for a couple of years now. It really, I started my Vinyasa teacher, my Tantra Vinyasa teacher, Nancy Goodfellow. She was talking about how her periods sync with the full moon. And I never thought about that, which makes sense. The moon has huge pull on the waters on the earth. Your body's made of water. So having that knowledge, I started tracking my moon cycle. Okay. And then that's when I started paying attention more to the new moon and the full moon.
Like, I don't have a cycle, but like...
Men go through daily cycles.
Men go through daily cycles?
Women go through monthly cycles.
Okay. But I do feel like an intensity around the full moon. And like, sometimes I feel it, and sometimes it's like, is this Mercury retrograde or is this a full moon? You know?
Men sync with the sun, women sync with the moon.
Okay. How do we sync with the sun? Like, what are we supposed to see? What's the cycle behind that?
I was just about to ask that.
I'm not really too familiar with the sexual cycle of men and sperm production, but I'm assuming it's something similar in the sense how women, the ovulation cycle takes 28 days. So I don't know, maybe the sperm life cycle might be 24 hours.
I gotta look that up.
Yeah.
I gotta look that up. Okay. Now, in the upcoming year, we are looking to launch a herbal shop via online, and the herbal shop, we have this immunity thing that's up and coming January 8th at Qi Body and Spirit. We're having this event where we're doing the Unify Posture program, but the topic is immunity. And everyone knows that I make the whole elderberry syrup. Like, the whole town knows about it, and everyone knows that I make it. Everyone's been taking it, and okay, that's great.
But why? What does elderberry do for you?
What does elderberry do for me? You know, the story behind the elderberry syrup is my daughter got sick once a month for the 3 straight months. I think when she was like 4 years old, and my wife gave me this like really like, you know, Kryptonian stare, I would say, you know, and says, you know what works well for this? And I'm like, what? And she's like, herbs. And you happen to be an herbalist. And I was like, oh, she's right. I am an herbalist, and I know how to prevent this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, everything I make tastes horrible. Like horrible. Like, you know, herbal medicine doesn't taste good. So now I'm like thinking to myself, oh, right, elderberry. People add honey to that. My daughter will drink that. And they made it. And the first time I made it, it was a huge batch because, like, I wanted to make it right. I wanted to make it concentrated and all this stuff. And it was so much because I didn't know what I was doing. I just, like, make the portions. I'm like, oh, maybe this much water. And it turns out it was so much that I bottled it in vinegar bottles and wine bottles, and I gave it to my office staff and some patients. I'm like, oh, I made this stuff here, just take some. And not knowing that it would become a business on its own, people started asking for it, and I started taking it. My wife started taking it. My daughter started taking it. My people at the office started taking it. My patients started taking it, and people.
My mom takes it all the time.
Yeah, your mom took it.
Yeah.
And people started putting orders, and that became a business on its own without me wanting it to make a business out of it. So that's the elderberry story, and the way we make it is from scratch. We source all the organic ingredients. We structure the water. Then we boil the contents, and we sanitize all the bottles because mold is now involved in it. And we wait for the boil to cool down so that when we add the honey, it doesn't change the honey into sugar. So, like, I guess that's like the secret part in it. It's not so secret if you look it up. It's
A lot of people don't know that, though. You'd be surprised. Most people don't know how sensitive honey is to heat because they put it in their teas and things like that. But raw honey is a whole food. It's got tons of enzymes and things that are heat sensitive. Most enzymes are heat sensitive. So when you put it into hot liquid, it just becomes sugar. All the enzymes die. It's just fructose now. So if you want to put it in a drink, make sure it's not too hot.
And it makes it go bad if you lose the honey aspect, because honey never goes bad, but sugar, like mixed into water or liquid, it will go bad. And
honey's very interesting with that. It hates bacteria. Bacteria doesn't grow on honey, and it has to do with honey has a really rare ability. I forgot what it's called, but it can absorb moisture through a membrane. So it absorbs the moisture in bacteria through the membrane of the bacteria and kills the bacteria. So that's what makes it almost impossible for it to expire, is because bacteria can't grow on it because the moisture gets absorbed through its membrane. It's really cool. Honey's really cool.
And when we were making this batch with Giuliano, so we make this huge batch, and it takes a long time for a huge batch to cool. And Giuliano's like, yo, we just pour the honey right now. And we're like, no, we're not going to do that. We are not going to put the honey in now. We got to wait until it cools below 109 degrees, bare minimum. And we're constantly checking the temperature. But long story short, we made it right, and we're making it right since. And we did a test. The test was to put the elderberry syrup out, not being refrigerated. And we left it for over a year, and it still hasn't gone bad. Of course, like, I keep it refrigerated, right, in my house, just for, safety precautions. But if you were to leave it out, it still wouldn't go bad because the honey's still intact. Next thing is the Vira Be Gone. I made a whole YouTube video explaining the whole science and the history of it, and then YouTube took it down because I mentioned the C word with the 2 numbers in the back. Right, and I mentioned that over and over and over, and then rightfully so, because there's so much like misinformation, people's opinion on it, and then eventually they took it down. But I made that for like it's super antiviral. The research shows it, and I can't wait to talk about it at the immunity workshop. And
we got a new recipe coming out for the immunity workshop.
Yeah. I'm very excited about it, and thank you for motivating me. Thank you for motivating me into getting it actually done this year, because this is something I've been thinking about every year and I miss it, right? But the accountability, right, which is so important. That's why you got to surround yourself with people who share your vision.
People like Linda, yes.
People
who are on top of stuff.
Yeah, people like
She's
Linda.
Very on top of everything. It's very good.
Yeah. Everyone needs like a friend like Linda, but she's our Linda. And I think this formula, you got to look it up, some of the ingredients, right?
Yeah.
It's boosts up the immune system from January till March. It keeps your immune system really, really high. And if you take it, and for people who have allergies, seasonal allergies, chances are it will go away. For a good chunk of the people out there. It's not guaranteed that it will do that, but people who suffer from allergies, this is a great way to prevent it from happening, right?
And also,
so what formula is this?
Immunity.
Immunity.
There's also
And
research for one of the ingredients that helps prevent flu as well. And it's an herbal brew, and it does have a very herbal flavor to it. It's 5 different ingredients. Even if I read it out to you right now, you might be like, I've never heard of any of these ingredients before. And that's part of the reason why we're opening the herb shop or the herb center is to really help introduce the Western audience to Chinese herbs, just because a lot of these ingredients aren't used, but they've been tried for thousands and thousands of years in the East.
Right. I mean, what's like really shocking to me is that there's all these biohackers who do so much research. However, they have not touched on the Chinese medical side of it. One, it's not their fault, because most Chinese herbalists who are really good, they don't speak English, right? Like my teacher, Dr. Wong, like he's like an advanced herbalist, right? Yeah, he doesn't speak a word of English. And I guess this is where I step up along with, the rest of the country's acupuncturists who are trained in herbs, and to get to introduce it. And I think there's a lot of information that's out to be there. And like one thing I don't want to like emphasize on was the craze on CBDs. When CBDs first became legalized, everyone, and I'm talking like everyone, people who did not even enter the supplement game, they got into it.
Right. And
there was like a what is that, direct sales version of multi-level marketing version of CBD sales. People were making their bath bombs. Like it went crazy. And you could put CBDs on your skin, you could eat it, you can rub it on your thing, like you could do so all crazy sorts with CBD. There was CBD in gummies, CBDs in food, CBD cooking events.
I've seen CBD water where it's like canned water with CBD in it. I've seen it.
And this fashion trend comes and everything dies down, right? And this is what I mean, an example of an herb becoming very popular. In the Chinese Materia Medica, there's about like close to 400. And if you're like not so pigeonholed into Chinese medicine, but are open to herbs coming from South America, Africa, like ashwagandha that everybody now
it's like
knows
turmeric's having its like little time right now.
Yeah. It's having a long streak actually.
Yeah.
But there's all these herbs out there that are just as special, right? But it's never going to get heard of. And I think this show can be like a beacon of hope for all these other herbs there, because they're just as special. One herb is not more special than the other. That's how I feel about herbs.
And they are strong. Like right now, with what I'm dealing with, I have the C word, which is why I'm not in the studio. But I've been taking plenty of herbs. I've been taking oregano oil. I've been taking turmeric, ginger, drinking ginger tea. Because I'm just congested. That's kind of it. But I want to get rid of it as fast as possible. And from yesterday to today, I've seen a big improvement. And yesterday I took oregano oil, I think 3 times after every meal. And I took a probiotic at night because I didn't want the oregano oil to kind of throw off my microbiome too much. So I did take a probiotic, but it made me feel much better. So now, as far as the other herbs, like you said, there's 400. I don't know a lot about those ones, but I'm definitely excited to experience and learn about them when we open up the shop.
Yeah. And that's one component, right? And one thing I just want to give a glimpse of what's going to be happening with the herbal shop that is related to the our show is that I always wanted to talk to people in the public out there about women's health, right? And women's health is divided into many different categories, like teenagers, young professionals, between 25 and 40, fertility, from 40 to 50, and premenopause, postmenopause. There's so many topics to cover around this. And I think that's one of the reasons why more women come to acupuncturists to help with their cycles and just general overall health, because they see the benefits of it more and more. And there's a lot of questions that I want to impart to my patients. But however, now that I'm busy, I can't like sit down and talk to the patients like I used to. And I think this show is a great way to make a, 10-part series and talk about these topics in one bit at a time to help people.
I could totally resonate with that because I went into my doctor with a lot of different issues. I had a positive test on a pap smear. Doctors are basically like, come back in 6 months, we'll see what happens. So there's nothing I could do about this. There's nothing else besides finding out that I got a positive result. So I went to my herbalist. He gave me some different herb combinations. It's really to help balance the issues in my body. And then there are several instances like that where I'm like, I know something is wrong with my body. I go to a Western doctor. They tell me there's nothing wrong, or do you want steroids? I didn't want to start on steroids at the time, or I really try to avoid it. So I started seeking help from acupuncturists and herbalists, and seeking alternative ways to help heal my body to bring it back into balance. And I found a lot of positive results, and positive in terms of I've recovered from those test results, and I'm trying to seek healthier ways to manage my own health.
So that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish. And women's health is and I think we got to do a lot of research, putting it all together. I'll be responsible for that, no worries. And is there anything else did you would like to accomplish with the goals with our show for our audience and stuff like that?
I definitely want to keep emphasizing the importance of having routines. Sustainable lifestyle changes, positive things you could do for yourself every day, every week, every month, every year. Exercise, yoga, breath work, these are all things that are part of our everyday lives. But we want to, it's a very accessible tools for everybody, and we want to make that knowledge available for everybody.
I wanted to tell you, I care about the planet too. So I bought myself the carry utensils. It's been sitting in my kitchen, but I haven't really carried out yet, but I'm going to start using it because I think it's very inspiring to see you always use it in front of me, and I'm like, man, like this is a lot of dedication, and I'm sure it's not convenient, right? But it goes to show people that, because I've seen a lot of people carry their straws and stuff like that, but you take it to a whole nother level. So I was like, wow, this is really cool because you're really making me think about every time I use these like utensils and stuff like that. And the cool thing is, like, you didn't shove it down my throat. Like, you didn't tell me like, hey, you must use this if you care about it. Like these conversations didn't take place. I think just by mere presence of someone using it is now contagious. Now, if I start using it, I'm sure it's going to affect somebody, right? Hopefully Lena. That's something I want to impart to Lena. So I think there are these goals that people set many moons ago, I would say. And now it's having a positive ripple effect that people have in society. Nikki, when you start working out and doing that, did that have an impact on your friends or anything like that?
Well, I really got into going to the gym and that stuff when my friends were mostly at school. So I was kind of, before I started going to the gym really heavy, I was kind of alone, and I wasn't doing much because my friends were at school. I stayed home, and it was height of the lockdown. So I was just kind of home every day, not really doing anything. So I just decided to start really going to the gym. And because I had so much time like that, I was able to really kind of focus and put a lot of dedication into that goal. And it happened to be in January. It wasn't a New Year's resolution. It happened to be a little over about a year ago that I started going to the gym like that. And it wasn't a New Year's resolution. That's just when it happened to take place. But since I had so much time, since my friends were away and I wasn't doing much, I was able to kind of completely focus on that.
I want to point out to people to have someone accountable, and it should be like a buddy system. For us, it kind of happened like organically. And my buddy Greg is going to hold me accountable to go to kendo every Mondays. I think that's a good routine change that I'm going to have in my life. And I think the people that I work with, I got to lead because they eat carbs all day, like every day. And I'm making it like a Gandalf stand, like, I'm not going to eat carbs. I'm going to eat fruits and vegetables and, starches and good fats. And I infected one person, and now the two of us got to infect the other person. So I think those are the changes that, I guess Tom is right. Like he always is. It's not about New Year's resolutions, but these routine changes that people got to do. And as long as you're able to make the people that you work with, live with, and hang out with become healthier, I think that's a good community to build upon.
And something I want to add to that too, it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical person to keep you accountable. You could also keep yourself accountable. Something I do whenever I set my intentions is I write it down. There's a lot of power to putting something down on paper and writing it down and putting words to it. Because you could think to yourself as much as you want, but writing it down almost makes it real, makes it physical and palpable. So being able to write down your intentions and something you could like flip back to and be like, I wrote this down a month ago, 3 months ago, a year ago. What have I done with this? And being able to reflect back on it and having a self-reflection practice as well. So being able to sit with yourself and reflect on your goals and what has passed and what intentions you want to set moving forward. So keeping yourself accountable is part of the process.
As you're saying that, I'm visualizing the Qi Body and Spirit Google Drive. There's a lot of goals there.
Yeah.
No, I think that is a good point, is to keep yourself accountable, and writing things down is a really good way to do so. And personally, I write things down on my phone, my notes, and I also have voice memos. The voice memos app, I'll record and I'll talk to myself, and I'll say, I hope to do this and I hope to do that. And I recently did one about, since I'm about to go away to school on Wednesday, I did one about school. Like, I hope to focus on this and achieve that. And I think that's a really useful way, not only to write, but actually talk to yourself.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Nikki, like, if you're setting these long-term goals, are these like all in your head long-term goals, or do you have some kind of like 10-year spreadsheet laid out? Like, how do you organize these long-term goals of yours?
Yeah, I just talk into my phone. I go to voice memos, and I'll just say, like, I hope to have this done by when I'm 30. Right now it's till when I'm 30. I hope to do this by I'm 30. I hope to travel here. I hope to see this place by when I'm 30. I have a lot of things I'd like to do by when I'm 30, and I'm just talking to my phone.
Linda, I got to ask you, when you were like in college and where you are now, how did life unfold for you with your plans when you were in college and where you're sitting now? Like, I'm curious to ask you about that.
In college, everyone knew me as this girl who loved food. Like, I would constantly be talking about food. I had a food blog. I still run a food blog. And it naturally evolved into becoming a dietitian. Okay. And early on in my dietetic path, I knew that this was not going to fulfill my needs and desires to help others to the extent that I wanted to. So I don't really have the foresight to make 10-year plans. Okay. But I know that the direction that I'm moving, and I'm very flexible and adaptable, and I'm able to go along with the flow. Okay. But in the past 5 or 6 years, I've been telling myself, I'm going to open a wellness empire.
Wow.
And this is kind of what Qi Body and Spirit is turning into. Yeah. Unintentionally, but it's kind of fitting into this in terms of there's a physical aspect in terms of fitness, yoga, kendo. The martial arts aspect I totally did not expect, but it aligns perfectly with who I am as a person. And then now that there's this whole wellness component with the acupuncture, the herbs, it's really coming together in a way that I could have never fathomed.
For me, I was lost in college. I no matter how much I slice it, like, I was lost. And in being lost, the only thing you can do is find yourself. And I think I did. And when I kind of like found myself, I got put into this field, and not knowingly like how well I would do and love my craft, and what I set intentions and had my 5-10 year goals, and now 13 years into my practice, I gotta say my dreams have not changed, but now there's a team. And I think having goals or intentions is very, very important for people to have, because if you don't set intentions, you're kind of lost, and you're letting things happen to your life, not taking control of your, I mean, if you're on a boat, yes, there is a current, right? But once you have control, you can avoid the rocks, you know? And I think that's so important for people to gauge. And yeah, the life is that, you know, at least in America, February, Valentine's chocolate, April, Easter chocolate, May, Mother's Day, June, graduation, July, 4th of July, summer barbecues, Memorial Day, all this stuff is just surrounded by so much like culture that is celebrating, but it's in so much excess, right? And that's the like,
it's the American way.
That's the flow, right? But because there's so much excess, we need to create these routines for us, right? So that we steer clear away from these things. And I got to learn how to steer clear from like December, because it's like I'm like looking at those chocolates. I'm like, oh no, I'm not gonna do it. And I come back between patients, I'm like, oh, chocolate.
So these things came up a lot when I was working in weight management, especially things surrounding food and excess. And people are always like, how do I avoid birthday parties? There's always donuts in the office.
Yeah.
Like small things like that add up.
Yeah.
And really just being able to accept it.
Okay.
Know that this is a part of your life. There's no way you're going to be able to avoid celebrations. There's no way you're going to be able to avoid all birthday parties.
Right.
And I like to think of it as being able to eat your cake and have it too. You can enjoy the cake, but think about how much cake you're having. Really sit there and enjoy the cake. And accept it for what it is. Yep. Like, okay, today was a birthday party.
Yeah.
And I was here for it, and this is the culture.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't have to really suffer with the guilt. And you could also provide your version of something healthy to the party. Like, I always bring fruit to a party. I'm always the person that brings the fruit salad. And always providing a healthy option, a healthy alternative. But at the same time, you choose to indulge, that doesn't make you a lesser person.
Right. I think one thing I noticed that last time we cooked food when you were around, we're like, oh, well, Linda's going to be here, so it can't be just all meat. Like, on the other end of the spectrum is Katrina. She's like, you got to have meat all the time around her. But I think when you have a vegetarian friend, like or a pescatarian friend, that helps. So grab yourself a pescatarian friend and vegetarian friend, and keep you accountable.
But also that's something that I struggled with, as far as, you know, when I'm somewhere and people are eating, or I'm at work and they have like a breakfast for everyone and there's nothing there that I can have. It is hard. It took me a long time to overcome that. I used to think, I look so out of place not eating anything, and I look so awkward not eating anything. But I eventually overcame that, and now it's something that I can deal with pretty well.
Yeah, a lot of it is mental fortitude. I agree. Like becoming vegetarian and then having a lot of Korean friends going to KBBQ and being like, I'm not going to have any meat was very awkward at first. But yeah, you really have to be able to find your voice and be able to be like, hey, I don't eat this. I'm okay eating this other thing. And I feel like it's the social pressure of anything. Yeah,
absolutely. I totally agree.
If any of our listeners own a Korean barbecue place, you got to put a veggie platter and some mushrooms and scallions and onions and make that happen, because definitely, I mean, if there was that option, I think I would eat less meat and eat more vegetables. Yeah. All right. I think to all of our listeners, this is the last episode of 2021. 2021 was a very special year, I'm going to say. And yeah, we look forward to 2022, continuing our work. And anything you would like to share before we log off, Linda?
Thank you all for being here. I'm really glad to be part of the journey.
Yeah. Nikki?
Me too. Thanks everyone for listening for this year. This is the very beginning. We're just getting started, and Happy New Year.
Yeah. All right. On that note, everyone, Happy New Year, and let's make 2022 awesome and healthier.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
I press stop. It says please wait.
And what do I press here? The red button?
Then you press below the record button. Should say stop or end maybe.